So evening everyone. So my name's Desi Gillespie and I'm the Roses Academy physio. So I've been with the team for about 3 years, and prior to that I was working in NSL and I've worked in lots of different sports. And since COVID I've been working back in the NHS in GP practice. And the good thing about all these roles is that I get to do a lot of education, so making sure that people are able to train as much as they like and as safely as they like. So having been in lockdown, this is quite the opportunity of making sure that everyone's going back to training safely. So the aim of tonight is we'll do a little bit of an education piece, and then the rest of it, so about the last kind of 40 minutes, will be more practical based, and then some time at the end to ask questions. Okay, so exactly like Eliza said, I will be doing progression, regression, but again, if you can't do it, just sit yourself out, okay, or do a new exercise. So I'm just going to share my screen. So can I just get a thumbs up that everyone can see that? Yeah, thank you. Oh. Okay, so the aim today, so we don't always want to be talking about reducing the risk of injury. We actually want to think about how we can be a better netball player. So that's where this is kind of the twofold presentation. So just going back to the complete basics, the fun part of what are the actual demands of netball. So in a normal game, you only go forwards for about 28% of the time. So the rest, you're changing direction, you're going backwards, you're going up, hopping. You've got people trying to push you over, obviously in the non-contact sport. So it's just taking into account what you need to be able to do, so we know how to physically prepare you. So in a game, you do about 160 landings. So each of those landings can always be a risk where we can get injured. Okay, so the reasons that we could be at risk for injuries. So we've got something called intrinsic and extrinsic. So intrinsic is within us. So some things that we can and can't control. Extrinsic is if that goalkeeper that just keeps nudging you and trying to push you over, that's an extrinsic factor. Okay. So what I put on this is kind of the general list that we always look at, and especially in sport medicine, we're looking very much at what things that we can control and what can we do to put in preventative measures. So I put some stuff in bold, and that's because there is nothing we can do about it. Okay, so being a female puts us at a higher risk of injuries. The way your ACL, so a ligament in your knee that you see quite a lot of people doing in netball, we can't change those kind of things. But your training age, so how much exposure you've had to training, we can have an effect too. Things like how strong we are, how flexible we are, how good our movement quality is. And the reason I put the bottom lot in stars is because these are ones that can have a big factor, especially after lockdown. So yes, we've not been training as much. So things get weaker, some things have got tighter because we're back into a more desk-based life. We're not as active as we used to be or as mobile. Landing skills, again, if you've not been exposed to it, that's where we can get a little bit rusty with it. Loading, I'm not going to touch too much on this because the S&C, so Ned Partridge will probably talk on it more. But basically, if you think about how much you can do on a day-to-day, what we don't want to do is overload you and do a lot more. So if you've been doing maybe 20 minutes of walking every day, and that's what you've been doing through lockdown, and suddenly you go for an hour and a half netball session, you're going to overload yourself, and your structures in your body are just going to think, oh no, what have you just done to me? Okay, so another example, if I'm quite a happy 5K runner, but I decide tomorrow I will do the marathon, then my body will not like me, my muscles will be sore, I put myself at injury risk. It might be that because I've fatigued myself so much, I'm at a higher risk of getting ill. So all these factors play in. So when you are returning to training, it's about being progressive. Okay, so what can we do now before community netball comes back to make sure I'm as ready and we're in this kind of gentle incline of training and not going from 20-minute session to an hour and a half where you put yourself at a high risk. Body mass, which are we all in the same shape as we were last year before lockdown? It's just appreciating that, okay? landing again. So if I go back to the list above, so weakness, tightness, if our body composition has changed a bit, then we have to adapt to that. Okay, and most of the time it's just being kind to yourself. When we return back to netball, it may be that you're not exactly like you were January, February last year, and that we have to accept we're almost having to go back 3-4 steps, and that it's okay that we are there and that we have to make these steps going upwards. So the other list, again, they're all about common sense. So don't go on the court that is completely wet. Make sure you are drinking and hydrating efficiently. So if you're underfueled, you're more at risk of giving yourself injury. If you're completely fatigued, and again, depending on work-life balance, like everything now is getting a little bit more tiring. We've been locked in our houses. We want to just go see people and start doing things. It's just factor that in. Okay, and back to travel. So normally when I give this kind of talk, we talk about jet lag, whereas now travel to us is if we go more than 5 miles out of our village. So it's just, again, factoring in all these new things like the last year we haven't had. So injury prevention. So we've got all these different factors that we look at, and especially like again in sports medicine. So I work really closely with Ned Partridge. So he did the talk last week. So we have a look at a lot of our stuff blends in. So on injury prevention, what can we do? So first of all, look at the court. Where is our training environment? Is it safe? Really basics. Have you got the right shoes? Have you got the trainers that are talking at the front? Okay. Pre-activation. So making sure that our muscles and our bodies are primed for what activity we're going to do. And that's where we're going to cover the bits in bold today. So screening and pre-activation. So these are things that you can start doing now. So again, going on that gentle increase of training. What can we start doing that when you get to a training session, you'll start doing these already and your body is primed. You would have, Ned did his talk last week about warm-up, making sure we're using that effectively and efficiently. He also talked about his strength training. So again, I'm not going to step on his toes on that. And then load management. So again, Ned will talk on that, but it's just about being sensible. And what I normally recommend is writing yourself a bit of a diary of what kind of training you've been doing. So if you look back and you've realised I've just done 4 back-to-back sessions, having not done a session for 3 months, then you are going to feel sore. Your body's not going to appreciate it. So how can we manage those weeks that things are gradually getting more intense? Injury management, probably the thing I always talk about, is when you start to get niggles, don't think, oh, it's just niggle, it'll be fine. All I want to do is play. It's start to address them early, because we can probably make more of an impact and we don't have to limit your training as much as when it becomes a full-blown injury. Okay, so it's having those conversations with the right people. Rest and recovery. I'm going to talk about that on my next month and go into the more in-depth of that. And nutrition and hydration. So making sure we are eating enough and eating the right things to make sure we are fueled for sessions, making sure that we are hydrated. And again, these little things, that's what can put us more risk of injury, and quite simple things that we can do. Okay, so we all look at these big gimmicks of things that can help make us better, give us that 5% gain, when actually making sure you sleep properly, that you stretch and you drink enough can make such a big difference that people don't appreciate. So obviously I've talked a lot more about that injury side, but if we're not getting injured, that means we're working more on court and working more towards performance. Okay, so that's kind of where we're now going to turn more to that performance optimization. If you're not getting injured, you're making gains on court. So this is just roughly what we're going to be doing now. So we're going to go through screening, and these are the kind of things that we look at within the academy, within the Roses, that movement quality. Okay, and it's used for everything we do, but we're just going to go on squat and a basic landing, and then we'll go through a bit of pre-activation. So tonight I'll be using bands, so just like using these little loop bands. You don't need to do it, but that's where it's going to give you that a bit of an additional help. We're going to use a wobble cushion. So if you haven't got one of those, you can always just use a rolled up towel tonight. And then They're all the things that you need for tonight. If you've got a book or a diary or a magazine, okay, you can use that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can use your phone, but it may fall on the floor. So I'm just going to stop sharing. Okay. So what we're going to do first, so when we look at screening, we're looking at how effectively that you're landing. If you're landing well, you again decrease that risk of injury. If you land well, you're more likely going to press off and get somewhere quicker and have a better change direction. And then if someone's going to try wipe you out, if you've got a good landing, you're more likely going to hold your own. Okay, so again, you can join in with all of these bits. So let me just make sure I'm far enough away from the camera. Hopefully you don't need my head, it's fine. So when we're looking at a squat, okay, what I'm looking at as a physio, the really basic things that you can do as well, is that your knees are over your second toes. Okay, so what we don't want is this happening. Okay, so be nice and solid. My hips are level. Okay, so I'm not doing any of this. And that my chest is up. So keep looking at my badge. So when I'm doing a squat, I'm going to step forward off this mat. So I'm going to come down, my chest is up, my hips are level, my knees are over my toes, and then I'm going to come back up. Okay, your foot position, you can change it where you're more comfortable. Okay, so I'm not bothered. If you're going to have a wider stance, your knees just have to track over your feet. Okay, so that's the main part of that. So we're going to go into a little bit more in depth, but we're going to go into a landing. So if I'm going to bound forward, I'm going to really slip before. Again, I want my knee over my toe. I want my hips level, and I want my chest up. And I'll keep that on my mat. Okay, so I'm going to step forward, land, nice and solid. Okay. Looking more at that injury side. So if someone lands and they start to fall inwards, that's at your risk of injuring this ligament. Also with your ankle, and if you're not stable when you land here, that's where you're more likely to go over. Okay, so make sure you're in a safe environment. So just have a practice of 3 squats. Okay, so going down, chest up, knees out, hips level. Okay, so down, up. So you can do what you like with your hands in a minute. Have them out, behind your head. Okay, and at home, use your mirror, use a video, watch yourself. Okay, so the mistakes that I see on a squat especially is people will go down, look beautiful, then they go to get back up. Okay, when you're at home, think about how you get on and off the chair. How many times a day do you do that? Do you get up and go okay, or people that stand up, throwing themselves forward, get back up. Okay, we can use all these opportunities in our day-to-day. Getting on and off the toilet, getting off the chair, going off the step, to think about these movement controls. So going off the step, are we pushing up in a nice straight fashion, or are we going up the stair and doing this on every step? Okay, so next thing you're going to do is just have a practice of a bound. So you're going to go from your left leg to your right leg. So step forward, land, put that foot down. Okay, do what you want with your arms. So we'll do 3 each side. Don't have to have it big. When you start practicing more, you can do bigger bounds. You can do left to left. Okay, these are what's going to challenge you. Okay, but just get that basic. Land, land. I'm going to advance up now. Land, land. Okay, so the things that we look for. So we have something called a quality assessment single leg squat. Okay, so when people go forward, the errors people make is that their knee falls in, their hip pops out, their chest goes forward or to the side, this leg flies out, hands go everywhere. Okay, and then it's just looking unstable. So when you see people that are landing, they're all like this. Okay, so that's where you can watch yourself. Okay, so that's where the QASL score, so QASLS, go online. It's a really basic score, and that's what I tell people to do, is film themselves, squat, lunge, doing a bound, and then critique yourself. What can you make better? So how do I make that better, I hear you ask? Well, we're going to do that now. So these are more activation based. So I'm going to go through them and again work at your own pace. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is line on your back. So we're going to work more on these deeper core muscles. I'm just going to bring that camera down a bit. So lying on your back, you're going to put your hands on your hips. So my fingers are at the front, my thumbs are at the back. Okay, you're going to relax your chest, but I just need to be able to speak to the camera. So you're going to focus on bringing that belly button all the way to the floor. Squish a grate underneath your spine. And then you're going to rock forward and arch your back. So imagine you've got a cup of tea and you're going to tilt forwards and backwards. So you're going to spill the tea backwards and then forwards. Okay, so this is just a pelvic tilt. And what we're trying to do is activate these deeper muscles at our core. If I start bracing like this, that's when I'm using those ab muscles and they're not long-term functional. Okay, so you can't use them all day long. These deeper muscles, they work at like 25%, and you can use them all day long. Okay, so now we want kind of halfway house. So we're going to spill our tea a little bit, but we're going to find that neutral. Okay, so you should not be able to get your hand underneath your back, but it shouldn't be completely pressed down that you can't hold on. Okay, so just have a practice moving forwards and backwards. So things you can do as well is if you're sitting at your desk, is practice the exact same thing. Okay, so it's a little bit easier if you're sitting on a chair with your knees obviously bent, but I'll just show you in long sitting. So practice being able to round and arch that back. So you can see it's not coming from my chest, it's all coming from my hips. I'm not collapsing, I'm going like this. So my chest is nice and still, and I'm just moving through those hips. Okay, so blend it into your day. If you get an email, do 5 pelvic tilts. Okay, you can do it in standing. Go against the wall and use that as your feedback behind you. Okay, so it's just getting used to that sensation like your zipper's coming up, but nothing's happening up at the top of my chest. Okay, so to move on with that, so you can, if you want, get your band and pop it above your knees for this next bit. Okay, so you can use a variety of bands. Start off with an easy one. I'd rather you go to the end of the session and think, oh, that wasn't too bad, than to be like, oh no, my glutes are on fire in a bad way. Okay, so we're going to do a glute bridge. And go back to basics, firing off these muscles. Okay, so put your feet together like so. You're going to move your toes out so you look like a D, and then you're going to match your heels. Okay, and that generally is about hip width apart. So now my knees are always staying over my toes, level with my hips, and your chest is down, you're nice and relaxed. So you're going to rock back. Okay, so we're going to spill that tea backwards, and then you're going to peel your back off the floor, vertebra by vertebra, one bit of your spine at a time. I'm squeezing with my bottom muscles, and I'm gently pushing out with this band. This band's trying to push my knees together. Okay, don't arch your back. This is not a back exercise. You should be squeezing your butt cheeks together for dear life. You're going to slowly lower down, but you're going to lower from this part, down, down, down. Last bit is your butt cheeks, and then you're going to round off, spill that tea forwards. So we're going to do 10 of those. Work at your own pace. If you can only do 5, fine. So rolling back, lifting up, squeeze those butt cheeks, and gently unravel down. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker now. 3, 4. If you're feeling your hamstrings, bring your feet in a bit closer. Okay? If you want to feel your hamstrings a bit more, walk your feet away. 5, halfway. 6. If this is a challenge, put your elbows to the floor. If it's really a challenge, put your hands to the floor. If you're like, God, Desi, please challenge me, take your arms away. Okay, and that's just going to give you a bit more stability. Okay, you choose what level is best for you. Okay, for my session, we want to make sure we've got that good movement control, and that's what's going to set you up. So it shouldn't be a session that's going to make you really sweaty. Okay, it should just start to fire things off. Okay, I'm going to say there's one more. And then relax. Okay, so shake your knees. Okay, so the next bit, we're going to jump with a single leg glute bridge. Okay, so the exact same thing. So set your feet, keep them where they are, or if not, 1, 2, 3, match hip width apart. I'm going to go on my left leg now. Okay, my right leg, I can put it wherever I feel comfortable. So I can do it out straight, I can keep it bent, but what I'm trying to avoid is my knees coming together. So my band is going to try to force me to do that. I'm now going to lift up, but now the biggest thing is I'm going to have to keep my hips still. So this, my right hip is going to want to drop. So we're going to keep that. Imagine you've got a tray of drinks, you're not spilling your drinks, okay? Be it the sacred coffee or the sacred gin. So you're going to go 5 reps. So exactly the same thing. Tilt the cup of tea, lift up, keep that tray straight and down. Make sure you're not using your back muscles. Squeeze your butt cheeks. This left butt cheek's going to feel it now. Okay, so only do 5. Four, 5. Okay, swap sides. So onto that right leg, establish, move your cup of tea if you need to. Then you're going to lift up, down. Okay, again, as I said, that left leg or that up leg can go wherever you feel comfortable. Okay. And this one, my right butt cheek is doing all the work, and the left is just making sure we stay stable. Okay. Glute bridges, waking up our bottom muscles. So the next thing we're going to do is work on 4-point kneeling. So we're going to go back to that core work, but we're going to give you a bit of instability. So you can go on a cushion. It doesn't matter what you're on. Okay, so make sure we look after those knees. So I'm going to unravel my toes. My wrists are under my shoulders. My knees are under my hips. And what I want you to do is that same movement at your hips. And you're going to just do it in this position. So round forward, back. So we're going to do something called cat-cow. So we're going to move through our whole spine. So we're going to round each segment all the way up and then all the way back down. So we're going to go into our cat, rounding my back, tucking my head in, and then slowly dip, dip, lift my head up. So we're going to do 6 rounds of that. Okay? So we'll go a bit quicker. So round and dip. Round and dip. So think about drawing that belly button in like we did on the floor, and then dipping back down. Round and dip. So the next thing we're going to do, so we're going to start blending them together. We're going to work a little bit on bottom muscles. So I'm going to use my band again. You don't need to. This one can be challenging on its own, but you use the band above your knees again. You're going to go into that 4-point kneeling position. I'm going to just change my angle a little bit. So we're going to do something called a fire hydrant. So we're going to work on our hip muscles. Now the aim of this is we're trying to isolate these muscles here. Okay, so we're trying to wake them up at the minute, and then later on, when we go back to that squat or that landing, we're going to put it all back together again. Okay, so when I'm here, I'm going to put my weight on my hands and my left knee, my right leg. So I'm going to tuck my tummy in, so we're in that halfway house, so that midway of that cup of tea. You're going to take your leg out to the side, and then back in. Okay, so out to the side, back in, and I'm focusing on just squeezing through here. I'm not letting my back arch. I'm not rounding up like a cat again. We're We're not our cat or a cow now. Out to the side and back in. Now the reason you've now got books, so have a practice, so 3 reps each side, just doing it on its own. So out to the side, back in. So 3 reps each side that you're happy. Again, you don't need a band. Now we're going to do 6 reps each side, but you're going to have a book on your back. Okay, so this is going to see how much you're tilting. If you're trying to use your back muscles or use momentum, your book's going to fall off. Okay, so don't worry about how far that leg is going out. We're just trying to get these muscles firing. Okay, we're looking at that movement control. I've got my book on the back now. So 6 reps each side. Oh no, good example, isn't it? So that's fine. You reset. Yeah. Okay, when you've done 6, those books right in for us. Right. You managed that without dropping your books? Great work. Okay. You can challenge yourself later, put the roller on, put a ball on. That's when you know you're an absolute ninja, when you can keep those on. So the next bit, don't need our bands. So we're still in that 4-point kneeling position, but we're starting to wake up shoulders now. Bottom muscles are starting to work as well. So we're going to do something called a Superman. So you're in your all fours, so exactly the same as before. Set up if you need to, find that neutral. And we're going to lift one arm at a time. So our weight is transferred between these 3 limbs. I'm going to lift my arms forward and then back down. Lift my other arm forward, up, back down. I'm going to take my leg back, so one at a time. Squeeze it back, so you just slide your foot, lift it off the floor, and then back down, then my right leg. Okay, so just have a go on all limbs. Challenge yourself if you want to, put the book on your back again. So what we're looking for is that you've got that control, you're not arching about, you're not dipping. Okay, so we've got nice movement control, nothing changes, but that one limb moving. So I'm going to go put my book on my back again. We'll just go for a round, one limb, move it slowly. One. Part of it is being able to transfer weight between each limb. 1, 2, back in. And my last leg, slide it out, squeeze my bottom, lift it up, and then back in. Now challenge yourself further, and you're going to do opposite limbs. So my left arm and my right leg are going to go together, but my back isn't going to arch. So that's what we see as a common fault. Is that people sit their back, so they do here, really extend through their back, and that will happen. Okay? So what we want to see is in that neutral position, and I'm going to lift. Nothing at my back is changing, I'm not doing these arm movements. Okay?
Desi, we're just losing the sound a little bit in that position.
Oh, sorry.
When you're kneeling up, it's fine. Just when you're
sorry. So I'm just going to do that again then. So all 4 position, just practice trying to keep yourself in neutral. Okay? So as you take away, that my back isn't arching or dipping. Okay, so just have a practice between left and right limb. Okay, I've got Sophie in the way. So as I said, you can just slide your hand out a little bit. You can go all the way up. You can challenge yourself. You can hold on to weights or have like a water bottle, have a can around each limb, and that's going to make it harder. Okay, so again, we're just looking at that movement control and we're trying to minimize those faults happening. So like I said, most of the time is that we start to twist, we start to collapse through our chest or through our torso. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is a hamstring curl. So I might demonstrate it and then I'll talk about it because I'm going to have to go over there. So I'm going to get my band back, but what you can do is again tie a weight onto your ankle. So raise your kitchen cupboard use a towel and put it around your ankle. That's how we're going to put on some load. So I'm just going to show you, and then I'll talk it through. On my tummy. Squeeze. If you can see that. So what we're going to do is just waking up these hamstring muscles. So when we're sprinting, these are really important muscles, and if people are going to have muscle tears, it's generally this posterior chain that you're going to feel it. So especially in a sport where you've got to be quick off a line, that's where we want to protect our hamstrings. But also, if you get strong hamstrings, you're going to be quick off that line. Okay, you want, especially centre court, you want to be that person that gets to the ball first. So making sure that you're lying on your tummy, you're nice and relaxed, and then you're just going to squeeze your heel towards your bottom. What you want to aim to do is squeeze, hold, slowly release. Squeeze, hold, slowly release. So just have a go, 6 reps each side. This is not about speed. Okay, I'd rather you start to feel it in those hamstrings. Okay, so I'm going to just do a couple reps just so you can see it again. It is easy when you have shoes because then the band doesn't slip up if you're using these bands. Okay, you can, if you've got somewhere solid, attach it to a wall or to a loved one, and then you fight against them. But again, watch it doesn't ping. Okay, that's the danger of these, is they can ping or snap. So next thing we're going to do is now standing up. So you don't, again, you can put a weight around your ankle, or I'm going to use the band again. Okay, so I'm just going to move my camera again. So now I want this kind of halfway on your calves. I'm going to go here. If you want to make it easier, put it above your knees. That's not the exercise. So what we're going to do is work on our standing leg, but also a working leg. So I'm going to stand on my left leg. I'm going to be nice and strong. My knees over my toe. My glutes squeeze. I'm nice and upright. I'm in a slight squat. Okay, so I'm not full upright. I'm in a slight, like a ready position. And I'm going to take my leg out to the side, back in. Okay, so we're going to do 8 each side. You can see that this leg is going to want to be pulled over, but I'm staying nice and strong. Okay, if you can, don't touch the floor. We're going to work balance as well. 3 and 1. So stability leg, working leg, and balance. Okay, you can slide your foot out. Okay, so it's whatever's easier. That's not what's easier. It's what you can do. Don't always do easy. The next one, we're going to take that leg backwards now. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze, but all I'm doing is enough that my bottom can squeeze. I'm not arching my back because we've just defeated the point. I'm going to move back in. Okay, so 8 again. So I'm nice and strong in my tummy. My left leg is going to want to be pulled over because of the band. You're going to start to feel it in both hips for different reasons. And now, swap over. The fun begins again. So onto that right leg. Get nice and strong. Squeeze that bottom. Keep that knee over that toe. 8 out to the side. Out. Squeeze. You do what you want with your hands. No, I just hold them like that. The further you go, the harder it's going to be. Okay, but it should be, if someone was looking above your waist, they shouldn't see any movement. Okay, to the back. So squeeze. So I'm just squeezing my bottom for dear life. And you should start to feel it. You'll feel it a lot of the side of your hips and the back. If you've got your band still, what we can do is just practice squats now. So we're starting to, what we did was we worked on the floor, and now we're starting to piece things together. So on the floor, we just work on getting this nice and strong. If this isn't strong, whatever hangs off it isn't going to be strong. Okay? So this is stable, this can be stable, this can be stable. So I'm going to bring my band a little bit higher up now, so just above my knees, never put it on the knee joint itself. And we're going to go for a squat. Okay, if you don't have a band, that's fine. Just do a normal squat. So we're going to do 5, but I'm focusing on pushing against those bands for dear life. Okay, so 5, 1. Again, knees over toes, hips level, chest up. 3, 4. Okay. And now I'm going to go for a lunge. So bands up. So exactly like I found earlier, everything still stands, the same criteria. So you're going to step forward, you're going to lower down. My knee is always pointing forward, my hips are always level, and I'm always showing you my back. Okay? And then we're going to step back. Other leg, step forward, nice and strong, lower down. Come back up, back. Okay, so we're going to do 4 each side. Step forward, down, back. Forward, down, back. 3. And again, the slower you go, the more time you have to correct yourself. Okay, so that's why if you're accelerating onto the wall, that's where you have to either be very strong or you don't have much time to correct yourself. So use these times now. Step forward, think about it. Squeeze, squeeze, down, back up. Okay? So if you're going here and think, oh, it's going in, and you're going to fight it, good. Okay? That's how it starts. You being aware of that movement and what's happening. Okay? Have a practice now of your bound. So 3 each side, land, land. How does that feel? Go forward and backwards. Step forward. Okay? Step forward. How does that feel now? Having had a bit of play, you've got things warmed up. Okay, so the aim of this is you should get into a session and you're ready to take on that first ball when someone passes it to you. So the last bit is working on calves. So this is kind of another common area we get injuries. So the tendon, which is here, your Achilles tendon. If your calf muscles haven't got the endurance to handle the demands of netball, so like I said, 160 leaps, spending more time going other directions but forward, these guys have to do a lot of work. So we've talked about control and these guys, this is about keeping you going through again. So what we're going to do is work on heel raises. So if you've got an edge of the step, that's ideal. If you don't have that today, that's fine, but practice on a step on another day. So I'm going to use this bit here, okay? It's not the most ideal because I have to lean over, but it gives you the picture of what we want. Okay? My feet are on the edge. I'm going to go up, slowly lower, and then step. Up, slowly lower, and step. The whole time my knee is straight. Okay, so I'm not putting it over close. That's me up. The aim is then, but if you see what my calf raises, all the way down, straight up, all the way down, straight up. Okay? If you're doing it on the floor, so I hope you can see my little hooves of my feet. So when you go up in the calf raise, so we've just worked on getting the power, but we want to make sure we've got the control. So as you go up, you want your ankles to stay on the same train tracks. Okay, so as I go up. What I see a lot in people that have got weaker ankles is they start to go up and go out like this. So if you think about it, when I'm talking about train tracks, I want to be here. What I don't want to see is people going like this. Okay? And if you've ever rolled an ankle, and this is where you're going to work on that movement. Go slower so you can correct it. It might be that you can't go as high. That's fine. Okay? Doing single leg calf raises. Okay? Balance. Okay? Working on tiptoe walking. Okay? So I'm making a bit of errors there. So again, I want my hips to stay level. So I don't go on my tiptoes and do this. All around here. Okay? As you go up, everything. My ankles are solid, my hips are solid. Okay, so these are really basic drills. You can even do when the kettle's boiling, walk up and down the kitchen floor. The last thing is we're going to work on balance. Everyone's favourite. This is probably the one I've been dreading tonight. So this is a wobble cushion, okay? So I just bought it online at Physique, but you can use like a rolled up towel, okay? This will give you more instability, okay? If you're not confident with your balance, just start off on the floor, okay? So I'll show you on the floor, and then I'll go on this. The stronger your ankles can be, especially in netball, ankle injuries are the highest injured body part in the sport, okay? So the more we can look after it, protect it, it's just going to, again, keep you on the court and make you a better athlete, okay? You can do that change direction quicker than the other, just because your ankles are a bit stronger. That is your extra, like, golden point, okay? So what you're going to do, you're going to, like we did earlier, solid, 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 okay? We're just going to move like a clock, okay? So you're going to point to 12, to 3, to 6, to 9, to 6, to 3, and to 12, okay? So the whole time I was watching my knee, that I'm not doing this. I was doing it a little bit when I challenged myself out that way. And again, that's okay. That's what we're working on. The closer your foot is, and the slower you go, the more time you have to correct. Okay, so you can work just like a clock face like so. You can really challenge yourself and go into a really big clock face. And then knock over my knee. Okay, so you've got your options. So just have a practice. So each side, so just try pointing at your hours of the clock. Okay, so again, lots to think about. In a minute, it might be that you're just thinking about staying upright. Okay, it might be that you're thinking, where's my knee? Where are my hips? What am I doing with my upper body? Okay, swap sides. Okay, get nice and stable. 12, going backwards now, anti-clockwise. So do the small circles. Point. Okay, challenge yourself, go a bit quicker. Really challenge yourself and go eyes closed. Okay, but be careful, that's where your risk of falling. Okay, so we're just working on that instability. The next thing to do is to give yourself a challenge. So it might be that you stand on one foot, but you're going to feed the ball against the wall. It might be that you juggle. Okay, so what we want is that you've got these balance skills, but subconsciously. So in netball, you're not thinking, I'm going to land, engage, oh, beautiful. You're thinking, pass me the damn ball, where's the next player? Okay, so that's where we want to make it subconscious. So have a conversation with someone at home, pass the ball, pass to someone else, that you're just getting used to. This is a normal thing, being nice and stable. So this bad one, we're going to do the whole lot again on this. So roll up your cushion. If you've got a jumper, roll that up. It's harder if you go barefoot or in socks. It's easier if you have a shoe because it gives you a bit of stability. So that's how you can progress and regress. So it might be that you do start off in your trainers. So first of all, we're just going to stand, okay? Then you're going to do your clock face. So starting off nice and easy. Okay, so I've now had to take my arms away, before I didn't. Okay, so I'm going quicker. I can start to pass the ball. Okay, I can start, if I could juggle, I would. Okay, so challenge yourself. Start to do eyes closed. Eyes closed takes away the horizon, so you have to focus on those muscles. It will move, okay? You're on an unstable surface. This is just air in here, okay? So it's okay. That means my muscles are working because they're going everywhere, okay? But I'm staying nice and solid through here. I'm nice and solid through here, and I'm actually correcting, okay? So when we're seeing instability, it's people that are having to make really dramatic movements to try to correct it. Okay, so make sure today we're doing both sides. Again, as I said, I'm giving you lots of progressions. If you've got quite a weak ankle and you can't even manage the floor, get good at working on the floor. Okay? You'll find out that the previous leg was my demo leg. Okay, so now I have to go a lot slower. You're seeing I'm having to correct a lot more. My ankle wants to go everywhere. Okay, lean forward. You start to do squats. You can also start to do like bounce onto that wobble cushion. Okay, so straight away, going into unstable territory, use your rolled up towel. Okay, the amount of injuries I've seen where people tread on other people's foot. Sometimes we can't avoid it. Foot's get in the way, your feet get in the way. Okay, but what can we do to get better? So stepping forward, get solid, step back. Step forward, get solid, step back. Okay, so as I said, these put more risk of hurting yourself. So do go within your limitations. I'd rather you do a session and then you just give one of these harder levels a go. Okay, it does take time. If this is the first time doing any of these kind of things, then it will be a shock to the body. Okay, but that's why we're putting on these sessions. Start practicing these elements now. Okay, so that's kind of all from me tonight. As I said, that if you can start doing these pre-activations, then you would start doing it at the beginning of a session. We have something called jump high, land strong, which is a landing technique sort of warm-up. So the aim is that everyone would do that. So you do this kind of session first, and then you'd go on to this landing program. Okay, so Ned is going to discuss it a little bit more in his next talk, and I believe it's in 2 weeks. And what it does, this program has, and I think it's readily available, but I'll get back to you, otherwise Ned will talk through it. It'll have little footprints of what you need to do. So it might be that you bound left to right, to left, and it's just working on those skills that you might come across when you're on call. Okay, so today was more about you being aware of what you're looking for. Critique yourself, use the mirror, use a video, do an activation, do it again, and then over the weeks you'll see how much you improve. That just a basic squat is so easy to do, or getting on and off a chair, you realise what great movement you now have just because you're thinking about it a bit more. Okay, so now I think it's opening up back to Eliza. So if there are any questions, please ask away.
Thank you, Desi. Yeah, if there's any questions anyone has and wants to ask Desi while we've got her, please pop them in the chat or feel free to come off mute. As Desi said, in Ned's session in a couple of weeks, we'll look at more Jump High, Landing Strong program, and it is available on the VNC. But within that session, we'll pop the link on there so that you can have a look at what Desi means. And it is a really good program. We've been including it in our other VNC sessions. So really useful to do, and you can just do it in your house, as Desi said, in your kitchen while the kettle's boiling, do a few bounds, do your calf raises. One question I had, Desi, I think you touched on it while we were doing that last little bit, is would you recommend doing these movements while we can indoors without shoes on or with shoes on? With your
if you're at home, any kind of balance work, you're going to challenge yourself more if you haven't got footwear. So if it's something that you're new to, start with footwear. If you're at home practicing, that's how you're going to get better. Okay, if you're on court, it might be that you do that in trainers, but when you're at home, you can work on those finer skills. Okay, so yes, if you can do all of this barefoot, you're going to be absolutely flying.
Great stuff.
I can just see something about Ehlers-Danlos. So hypermobility is quite something common that we see. So obviously Ehlers-Danlos is a different kind of level of hypermobility, but it's all about being strong. Okay, so hypermobility isn't an issue. So like even myself, like my elbows go backwards, my knees go backwards, but I've got the strength to control that range. So that's where in your rehab sessions or in your training sessions, you've just got to work the strength through the range you have available to you. And sometimes, unfortunately, with these people, with hypermobility, you have to work a little bit harder than someone that can barely touch their toes. Okay, so it's not a problem. It just means that you need to work that strength in the range you've got, and it might be that you just got a little bit further to go, or it might be that little bit harder to get stronger, but it's not an impossible thing.
Kelly said, should she do these before a game and training? If so, is there any bridge options standing for when we're playing outdoors? So before a training session, if we're playing outdoors, can we do anything in replacement of a glute bridge on the floor that's standing?
So yes, I would say get in the habit of doing these kind of sessions. before your training, before you go for a run, before you do your strength session, before a game. Get used to doing it. Don't do it the first time before you play a game, because you'll regret that, I think. But get used to it. You'll find your pattern of what you need. So if someone that's had an ACL, they now know that, like that banded, what I call skaters going to the side and going backwards, that is their gospel thing that they have to do. And that's because that's become their routine. So in terms of like bridging on the floor, it might be either get a jacket and go on the floor if that's your routine. Some people just want to stick to it. Or it's doing things like the banded one where you're standing. Okay, you can do the hamstring curl when you're standing against a fence. So I've done quite a couple versions of the same things. Ideally, if we could do it all, but like you said, if it's outdoor, it's raining, you don't want to go on the floor, do the one, do an extra set of that banded one we talked about. Do some banded squats. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, I really like that bandage work. Just even the step out to the side and backwards, you could really feel it, just that extra band on. We did get,
yeah.
I was going to say, we did get a question through email about calves, but a calf issue, but we did you did touch on that with the calf raises. Just anything with a sudden change of direction, change of pace, we might get a bit of a twinge in the calf, but suppose it is just strengthening those calf muscles up through them heel raises.
Yeah, so trying to make sure you've got the range of movement. So doing that on the edge of a step, one is a stretch, but it's also getting strong through that range. And like we talked about with hypermobility, people that have more range have to get stronger in it. So if you're doing it in your training, you're not going to have an issue when you're out on court. With that, like the balance work, going really slowly, because you have to get strong on that version first. It's going to be harder to do it at full pace, changing direction. So it's take it back 3 steps. And what I said at the very beginning is people are going to be rusty, like landing skills. That also applies to change of direction skills. Like landing is a change of direction. It's just you're normally going to send yourself somewhere else. Okay, so be kind to yourself that it's okay to take 3 steps back, work on the foundations. I've said to a lot of like the academy athletes, treat this as a bit of a blessing, that sometimes you just get through these niggles all season because you can get by. But we've had this opportunity of lockdown to almost go back to the beginning, work on our weaknesses, work on our foundations. And the aim is that we're coming back as better athletes this season.
Yeah, definitely. Great stuff. No more questions that I can see. So I think one more just come in. What is the best exercises to do when returning from a torn calf?
Pretty much what we did in that session. So make sure that you've got strength through the range. Make sure that you're equal strength and endurance left and right. So after injuries, what happens is the non-injured leg becomes the dominant leg. So we need to make it that it's more 50-50, because that's where risk of injury happens later on. Okay, so that's probably the biggest thing, is try and get symmetry back. So anyone that's been in a cast or offloaded, so when you do these exercises, I always say start with your injured leg first, because whatever that leg can do, then you have to just copy on the other side, or else you're always playing chase.
Thanks, Desi. And just one more from Jackie. Joan said it's been really informative, so thank you. But Jackie has just asked about the juniors that are really raring and ready and wanting to get back on court, but we're all aware that they've not been playing for a while. They might not have been doing the Zoom sessions that have been put on for them. Do you think that they should try and do sessions like this separately before they get back out on court, or before they play? So would you recommend this as a full session separately, or to do before they play?
I definitely recommend start doing it now. So things that they can do at home, if they can't be playing, they can be work. This is all valuable things, especially in young girls going through puberty. Their body is always changing. So this kind of stuff I'd say to be doing no matter what, even if we were coming out of a lockdown. Or I'm sure you've all seen that the girls that just shoot up overnight or between 2 sessions, this is really, really vital stuff, because they need to learn how to control their body as they go through, as I said, change of height, or their body composition changing. So definitely start now and almost just make it a habit, and that this is normality. And then definitely when they go back onto court, do it as a warm-up. Use the jump high, land strong, because it all feeds in. and get them used to being critiquing themselves of what is a good landing, what can they be doing at home. This is normal to be talking about this movement control work. Not all about netball. We all love netball, but
yeah, great. And I think if I knew as a junior this sort of stuff that I know now, probably wouldn't have got that fractured ankle that I got. So yeah, thanks so much, Desi. Thanks everyone for joining us. The session has been recorded, so hopefully it'll be ready and available to watch again, and you can go back and do the session over again on the VNC. Hopefully we will be having more time with Desi over the coming weeks, and we shall see you again very soon. Thanks so much.
bye guys.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.